Hi, I'm Sienna, and today I'm going to be talking about psychology and stress and how we should manage our stress in healthy ways. So, starting off with a quick story, I'm sure we've all felt stress at one point in our lives. I know a moment where I remember feeling really stressed is before things like AP exams, where you're probably cramming all that last minute knowledge a couple of nights or even the night before a big test that you've been anxious or thinking about for the whole entire year. I think that's definitely, I was like really just, I almost couldn't think straight, which makes it even harder to succeed on the AP exams. I'm sure that everyone's had a stressful experience in their life with like deadlines, homework, just overall workload. And so it's important that we are able to cope with those in a healthy way. So moving on, what actually is stress? And I feel like everyone talks about how they're stressed, but we never talk about what it actually means to have stress. So stress is when your kind of demands or outside demands are feeling much bigger than what you can actually handle or what you can kind of cope with. And it can come through like psychologically or biologically. Some like psychological symptoms of stress are overall just anxiety and worry, but even they could be like anger or sadness. And obviously, if you're stressed over a long period of time, that can take a toll on your mental health. On the more like biological side, your heart rate increases and your breathing can speed up. I know that if you're in a stress period for like a long period of your life or time, your body turns into like a fight or flight response, and that's obviously not healthy because that does come with that like kind of cortisol spike, breathing heavy, heart rate increasing, and just like mentally always kind of being on radar, like on alert, things like that. So obviously it's not healthy to be in that kind of anxious, worried kind of state all the time, but it can be kind of different for everyone. Also, I would like to note that if you're also stressed for a long time, you can even experience like immune system like decreases, so just getting sick more often, things like that. So just really emphasizing on like how important it is to kind of be able to properly cope with your stress. So I've been talking about coping, but again, like what actually is coping? We just talked about what is stress. So coping is how we manage our stress. And you can go again, like how there's psychological, biological symptoms of stress, there's also psychological and biological ways of kind of coping. So I would say like mentally coping with your stress is just like going through and calming yourself down and talking through it. Like, how serious is it? Like, can we like handle this amount of stress on our body? Things like that. And a more like biological thing would just be whenever you're coping, it lowers your heart rate and it reduces your cortisol. So just kind of talking yourself through it not only like reassures your mind, but even your body, because it's reducing your heart rate. You're kind of leaving that state of high anxiousness. I know if you get really anxious about something, you can even go into things like panic attacks, and just making sure that you kind of talk yourself through it, let your body kind of release that stress. That is really important. And there's also two kind of types of way to cope. One of them is problem focused, so you're kind of just fixing the issue. And the other one is emotion focused, so just manage the feelings. These are both like effective ways, but I think it's important to note that a lot of people fall into only emotion focused. So, and that could be things like overeating or scrolling, and these can kind of be slippery slopes. So it's also important to get the problem focused as well, so you're actually fixing the issue of the stress and not just covering it up with like a high like feeling for a second. And so now I'm going to talk about an evidence-based strategy to help you cope with your stress. And one of them could be mindfulness and breathing exercises. I know in my yoga class that I took during high school, during an APA period, we would have mindfulness Mondays, and that was always like a calm moment in the middle of my day, leading up to those exams, or even just in general throughout the semester. How you would do it is you just kind of sit quietly. You can play like a meditation audio, or you could even kind of walk through the steps yourself. I found that the audio worked really good for me, but the important part is that you're focusing on your breathing, and you're noticing your thoughts and the stress that you might be feeling in that moment, and kind of letting it pass through your body, and just being aware that it is going to work out, and just really focus on that psychology by letting those thoughts pass, and also your biology by slowing down your heart rate and your breathing. And then just a little bit of evidence to back it up. It reduces your stress hormones, improves mood and emotional control, and even helps but helps kind of momentarily with anxiety or maybe some panic attacks. And then a second evidence-based strategy is exercise. And even though that kind of feels like something that might cause some stress for some people, once you get into that routine, I find that it's really helpful. It doesn't even have to be like running or things like that. It can just be like a simple, like a 30-minute. I know that we just did a mindful kind of walk exercise. I normally go on walks, so just like a 30-minute mindful walk. You could even have some music in and just kind of like be present in that moment with your body. And it also helps like kind of balance out your heart rate, and it reduces stress levels and boosts your mood after, so you get some endorphins in. It also strengthens your immune system. So like I said before, where if you're feeling a lot of stress over a long period of time, it lowers your immune system. By doing aerobic exercise such as walking, it can actually boost it again. But yeah, it can be walking, running, biking, just whatever feels best for you. And then just to wrap it up, I hope that this was kind of a helpful self-help video, and the science and methods have some use to you. And I hope that you learned a lot. So don't be stressed, and find some good ways to cope.